I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
Real-life families and, actually what's going on in the community, and it must be really challenging.
Tension is palpable throughout Britain as Windsor serves as the backdrop for a historic event. A nation is astounded when Catherine and William emerge as king and queen rather than heirs, unprepared for this abrupt change. There are rumors of King Charles's precarious health. While some perceive a deliberate reset of the crown itself, others point to pressing behind-the-scenes decisions. Senior royals exchange nervous looks, crowds gasp, and allies look on in shock. What then truly made this historical moment? Stay with us, because everything is going to change after this. The moment came with words that had weight well beyond Westminster Abbey's vaulted dome, rather than trumpets and thunder, as the crown was peacefully transferred. The Archbishop of Canterbury bestowed a blessing that many now consider to be the real turning point of the modern monarchy, beneath the same arches where King Charles had been crowned just 2 years prior. His message was straightforward but profound. The crown was now a duty that was being passed down to people who were prepared to hold it, rather than merely an inheritance. The meaning was immediately understood throughout the realm. The picture that cemented the day's legacy then appeared. As the guardian of royal duty, Princess Anne took the lead with composure and integrity. She was holding a recently ordered Queen Consort's crown made by Gerard and Company. Since 1735, the royal jeweler has been associated with the crown. The crown, which was set with Burmese rubies, sapphires, and diamonds from Queen Elizabeth II's personal collection, represented continuity and earned confidence rather than spectacle. Later, palace authorities acknowledged the existence of two versions. For significant state events, a heavier crown is kept in the Tower of London, while a lighter ceremonial counterpart is made for situations just like this. For a brief while, Catherine wore the lighter crown while London's Abbey bells rang out. However, the nation's perception of her was altered by that brief moment. Her serene, even melancholy demeanor was observed by onlookers. She wasn't just taking a symbol, she was taking on a load. The public may see the change in a matter of hours. Following the blessing, William and Catherine went to Windsor Castle for their first walkabout. The streets were crowded with thousands of people waving flags and carrying flowers, many of them sporting handmade badges that said, "For the future, William and Catherine." They were now functioning not just as heirs, but as the active hub of the monarchy. While Catherine, wearing the tiny crown and clothed in a dove-grey coat, greeted people with serene assurance, William moved with a combination of warmth and constraint. Kids handed her folded notes. Leaning forward, an old veteran murmured, "God bless the new queen." Her response, "God bless the king," was equally telling. Palace aides were cautious about what they said behind the scenes. They emphasized that this was not a regency. Co-stewardship was involved. Day-to-day royal responsibilities had been formally transferred to King Charles III, who is currently recuperating under medical supervision in Sandringham. Even though the titles had only recently caught up, the authority had changed. The occasion was enhanced by one absence. Instead of going, Queen Camilla stayed at Raymel House for what reports described as private reflection. One analyst noted that although Westminster signified a new spirit, Windsor showed who currently bore it, sparking a quiet debate about her choice. The public responded quickly. Hashtags honoring Catherine, Princess Anne, and what many saw as a return to duty-led monarchy proliferated on social media. According to a YouGov poll, 84% of Britons thought the change was appropriate and timely. The approval ratings for Catherine reached their greatest point since 2022. One picture of Catherine bowing to Princess Anne at the presentation of the Crown-dominated international coverage. It was dubbed the decade's signature royal image by CNN. William stopped by the King Charles III Memorial Oak and placed a child's bouquet at its foot as night fell over Windsor. Catherine kept a careful eye on things. Loyalty and leadership came together in that subdued gesture, revealing the true turn of events. The The monarchy had changed without waiting for a coronation. It had already moved on, and the nation was following suit. What, in your opinion, caused this quiet handover of power, duty, fate, or a determined action? And who is actually in charge now? Keep an eye out. The crowd witnessed assurance, solidarity, and purpose as the palace axis changed, as William and Catherine gave one last serene wave and turned back toward the castle gates. The people outside Windsor saw it as a fitting way to cap off a momentous day. But the mood within Buckingham Palace was even more uneasy. The pictures of Princess Anne giving Catherine the Gerard crown under Westminster's old arches, which were already making the rounds, were being examined as signals rather than symbols. Within the royal walls, what had seemed ceremonial to the country felt dangerously close to succession. Queen Camilla was the focal point of that subdued tension. According to official statements, Elizabeth temporarily withdrew to assist King Charles III as he recuperated at Sandringham under medical supervision. Her absence from the Windsor Walkabout and the Abbey blessing was justified as a time for introspection at Raymel House. However, few people in the system thought it was that easy. People in her immediate vicinity hinted that something more profound was happening. They said that without her, history was being written. According to reports, Camilla watched Ray Mill's service. Later, a confidant revealed that while Princess Anne's remarks touched her, what transpired left her shaken. Anne's role was declaratory rather than merely ceremonial. Catherine officially accepted the new moral authority of the monarchy by putting the crown on her head. That symbolism became structured in a matter of days. Quietly but firmly, palace protocols started to change. The Royal Communications Unit's reporting lines were changed. Teams that had previously reported to both Clarence House and Buckingham Palace were now working directly under the Prince and Princess of Wales' office. Experienced royal observers spoke to the change as something different, despite officials characterizing it as temporary. A complete earthquake of the Constitution. It was reported that King Charles, who was still recuperating in Sandringham, gave his approval to the modifications. According to insiders, Princess Anne encouraged him to take action by assuring him that history would not wait for doubt. One source vividly remembered what she had said. "Charles, you can relax. They're prepared." In royal circles, that expression immediately gained traction. Catherine's schedule changed within 48 hours following the blessing. At Kensington Palace, she threw a casual luncheon for the Commonwealth Youth Ambassadors. There was talk of education, opportunity, and innovation instead of crowns, carriages, or pomp. The message was clear. Leadership had already started. A global response ensued. Her composed authority was commended by the British press. Her work was cited by foreign media as proof that a monarchy is once again becoming morally clear. However, discomfort persisted within the palace. Days after the blessing, Fiona Shelburne, Camilla's private secretary, quit, citing reorganization. Employees who had previously supported Clarence House were transferred to Kensington. The earth appeared to be shifting beneath everyone's feet, according to a former aide who called it confusing. Princess Anne was a constant throughout it all. She brought information and reaffirmed unity to the king during her 2 visits that week. She gave her usual straightforward response when asked if the changes were permanent. The crown awaits bravery rather than consolation. The statement dominated news reports and emphasized the difference between Camilla's quiet and Anne's direct leadership. Soon after, there were whispers. Some historians started to discuss a dual monarchy in practice, if not in name, with William presiding over weekly Privy Council briefings and Catherine spearheading state-facing engagements. It is not impossible, but it is unprecedented. And as time went on, it became more difficult to deny the reality emerging beyond palace walls. And with William and Catherine sharing invisible authority, would Britain's monarchy be subtly changing itself? What does this dual reign that is disguised mean? Hold on tight. When a blessing turned into a power transfer, many were quick to point out that a blessing is not a coronation. However, in terms of faith and custom, a blessing sets the stage for what must come next. Many people interpreted the well-chosen remarks spoken in Westminster Abbey as more than just spiritual comfort. They appeared to the public as a tacit confirmation that new people were already in charge of the throne's future. Catherine appeared to proceed with a confidence that didn't require an announcement in the days that followed. Pictures surfaced showing her leaving Westminster Abbey for an unexpected visit to a children's hospice rather than a formal engagement. There was no preliminary briefing, and no cameras were invited. Later that day, the palace announced that she and Princess Anne will chair the next Commonwealth Youth Forum. A clear contrast started to be drawn by commentators. Despite being queen by title, Camilla was invisible and unheard. Wherever duty felt most human, Catherine, queen by presence, showed up. Those closest to King Charles III maintained that the change was motivated by resolve rather than resentment. One longtime assistant reported a private exchange between Princess Anne and the monarch in which Charles stated, "Let her shine. Your mother would have desired that." There was more to that emotion than meets the eye. Once shared and delicate, authority was now settling with clarity. William and Catherine visited local volunteers who had helped the estate during the king's recent health retreat during a symbolic walk through the Sandringham gardens, when that truth became apparent. As their motorcade approached, the Norfolk grounds were bathed in a warm glow from the afternoon light. King Charles, who was resting under medical supervision, was greeted with soft applause and the flutter of Union Jack flags. Although he did not show there, his presence was felt in more subdued ways. The walkway was bordered by white roses. In the distance, church bells sounded quietly. This was stewardship in action rather than a farewell. Wearing modest navy, William and Catherine went out together as a purposeful symbol of their solidarity and common goal. They were merely two figures strolling down a path that Queen Elizabeth II had formerly known. There was no magnificent vehicle or ceremonial flourish. Frequently pausing, they acknowledged the audience with genuine smiles. What started off as a polite visit soon developed into something more. An elderly gardener who had been taking care of the grounds for almost 50 years was approached by Catherine on her knees. He whispered prayers for the king and gave her a little bunch of white flowers. "He feels your prayers every day," she said softly while holding his hand. William told several young scouts nearby, "The best service is the kind done when no one's watching." The scene was well captured by the cameras. They were no longer waiting to take control. They were already. Senior aides and Princess Anne, whose influence had subtly affected every stage of the changeover, attended a private reception within the main hall. Her remarks were succinct but direct when she lifted a glass. She stated that the crown is not a gift, it's a relay. Afterwards, Catherine admitted that Anne's leadership had kept them stable during their transition. Catherine conducted a brief roundtable with members from the Commonwealth Secretariat, the British Council, and the Royal Foundation as dusk fell on Sandringham. Cultural diplomacy in a changing world was the main topic of discussion. Months-old proposals that prioritized sustainability and education over spectacle now seemed prophetic. The upcoming Commonwealth Youth Forum, which Catherine and Anne will co-chair, will immediately benefit from the ideas, according to aides. She was referred to by Sky News as the moral compass of the monarchy. However, not everyone within the palace gates was prepared to acknowledge the extent to which the balance had already shifted. And so, as the lights slowly fade over Windsor and the echoes of the Abbey bells disappear into the night, one truth has become impossible to ignore. The monarchy the world once knew is quietly transforming. What began as a moment of blessing has now reshaped the balance of power inside the royal family. Not with dramatic proclamations or grand ceremonies, but through quiet duty, steady leadership, and the growing presence of William and Catherine at the very center of the crown. For King Charles, it is a moment of reflection. For Princess Anne, it is the continuation of a lifelong commitment to the stability of the monarchy. But for William and Catherine, it marks the beginning of something far greater than anyone expected, the moment when the future of the British crown started to take shape before the world's eyes. The question now is no longer whether change is coming. The question is how far that change will go. Will this quiet transition redefine the monarchy for a new generation? Or is this only the first step in a much larger transformation still waiting to unfold? As history continues to write the next chapter of the House of Windsor, the world will be watching more closely than ever. And when the next royal moment arrives, it may reveal a future no one saw coming. If you want to stay updated on every royal development and the stories unfolding behind palace doors, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next update. Because in the world of the royal family, the biggest moments often happen in silence.